Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express, and on this side of the show, we're talking about the BBI, the upcoming referendum, and the need for consensus or not, according to some. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga will on Wednesday launch 1 million signatures collection drive in support of the Building Bridges Initiative referendum push. The BBI Secretariat made this announcement on the day Odinga met a section of Mount Kenya leaders with a pledge to personally lead the campaign for the document in the Mount Kenya region. Tonight, this morning, Murimi Mwangi reports on the prospects of what could be a highly contested referendum as BBI proponents prepare to slam the door shut on the amendment of the document expected to be published before Wednesday.
The BBI Task Force report. Makofi.
With strict timelines to beat and mandatory constitutional obligations to meet to undertake any referendum prior to the 2022 polls, the President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga-led Building Bridges Initiative here on Thursday last week encountered its first hitch when the duo postponed the launch of collection of 1 million signatures over what the BBI Secretariat termed as delayed publication of the referendum bill. A week later, though, the Secretariat says it's back on track with a fresh date for the launch.
Tungetaka kuanzisha correction of signatures kesho kutwa KICC, and we are going to be led na viongozi wetu, rais wetu, and the former Prime Minister, the two principals.
BBI proponents had planned for the signature collection drive to run for a month, projecting that electoral body IEBC would subsequently also take a month to verify the signatures and pave way for a marathon debate and approval of the referendum bill in the county assemblies within the legally stipulated 3 months. 24 of 47 assemblies have to approve the bill for it to be forwarded to the National Assembly and the Senate and subsequently subjected to a popular vote. A rigorous and high-stakes exercise which has intensified the Kenyatta-Odinga backroom lobbying, the latest group to meet Odinga being a section of Mount Kenya leaders, a meeting that also resolved to have Odinga tour the mountain in 2 weeks to popularize the document.
We have made very extensive consultations since this process started, and we are still continuing to consult. But we must actually now start the process of signature collection and move on to referendum. There are people who may have some reservations, but that is as it is. You can never be absolute at all.
We do recognize our past marginalization. We do recognize the gains coming from the BBI initiative, and we will stand with the process man to man, mundu ku mundu.
This meeting happening as calls for further consensus building on the document intensified, a narrative that has also been quite popular with the Deputy President William Ruto camp.
When somebody speaks about imperial president, let them point out to you where is it in this recommendation, rather than just say something which is not there. We need to take item by item and say what is wrong with it. And that is the position.
And we will try to be as inclusive as possible. But then, regarding the timing, you know, there will never be any right timing, because things will be happening. Today it is COVID. Tomorrow it will be famine. It will be drought. Locust invasion.
And the charm offensive continues as the BBI proponents seek to neutralize elements of rebellion against the document. Murimi Mwangi, KTN News, in Nairobi.
Right, and joining me via Zoom is Caleb Hamisi, MP Saboti, and Franklin Mkwanda, who's the CMD Executive Director. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Now,
thank you very much, Patrick.
yes, good morning to you. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to one of the stories that's made headlines this morning. We're told Raila shuts door on BBI negotiations. Would you agree that that's an accurate representation of the very latest, the fact that they shall be going ahead from Wednesday to collect those signatures that would lead eventually to a referendum? I'll start with you, Honorable Hamisi.
Thank you for having me this morning. I think the BBI train, as it were, has already taken off.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, thank you. I believe the BBI train has already taken off, and the people who have been opposing BBI all along since the handshake began will not turn around in 1 single second and support it. Whether you include everything that they wanted to be included in that document, whether you even include the name of their wife and the name of their children, they'll not support that document. So
how come, in your view?
The collection of signatures must begin so that the process of BBI culminates into a referendum, and eventually we forget about the process and move on as a country. We cannot stagnate for 5 years talking about the same process.
Okay, Honorable Hamisi, just to pause you there, you're saying no matter what, they would be opposed to the BBI. Why would you think that is? Why would a political leader be so opposed to this document to the extent that no matter what is in it, they would actually? Because there is the case for those who have concerns on issues such as land and what have you, that they seem to think that it would be better to have those issues included in the document. So why would someone be so vehemently opposed to the BBI?
Yeah, BBI is a political process, and you need to look at it politically.
Okay.
It is not going to be passed in a church service. It is going to be passed through a political process, and that's why the political interests collide. Now, being a political process, it has brought in various interested parties, and some are taking the documents to launch as a launching pad for their various political ambitions. Now, you must also remember that there are some elements who are opposed to these documents, who are also opposed for the 2010 Constitution, and the Constitution passed, and the same people are supposed to live with it. This process of BBI, when it began, the same people who say that there are a lot of issues that have not been included, they had an opportunity for more than 2 years to include their views. The task force went around the country, county by county, gathering views. I, Caleb Amisi Luyai, presented my views on behalf of the young people. There are numerous organizations, numerous individuals from across the board who presented their views. They need to point out to Kenyans that I presented these views to the BBI, but it was not captured.
Some of them and they have accused the task force of being quite biased. Do you agree with this? What's your take on that sentiment before I bring in Mr. Mukwanja?
They do not have blanket condemnation. They need to clearly point out. They need to call a press conference and say, this is the document I presented. Can the task force? You don't just talk. We were not there when you are presenting. Nobody knew what I presented. Of course, not everything I presented to that document was captured. You cannot have a document from Nairobi to Washington. That is not a constitution. It has to capture the majority views, and we will definitely leave out a lot of views. And if you think that there is something very important that needed the constitution to be changed on, that will affect the life of Kenyans or will make Kenya better, Kenya has a right to start an initiative of its own. Aikura Aukot started his own. Punguza Mzigo. Why did the same people present their views before Aikura Aukot? Why did they stop Aikura Aukot from going ahead with this Punguza Mzigo? Why BBI? It's because they have seen an opportunity to propagate their politics. That is simple.
Now, Franklin Mukwanja, you're joining us also via Zoom. What is your take on the situation right now? From tomorrow onwards, there shall be the collection of those 1 million signatures. Tell us what you think and where your stance is on the fact that some are claiming that their views are not being accommodated as should be in the BBI before they move forward with it.
Thank you very much, and good morning to my friend, Honorable Caleb Amisi. I think several things. One is we must be clear on the content and the process.
Yes.
The process is provided for in the Constitution. And what is happening and what has been happening and what is going to happen tomorrow, beginning the collection of signatures, is part of the process. On the part of the content, I want to be categorical that, you know, this country it's been very unfashionable, to be honest. And that dishonesty is not just to domicile in the political class, has also permeated other sectors of society. And it's very interesting to hear how my good friend Honorable Caleb Amisi is very honest that this is a political thing and it's about positioning for 2022. And then what Kenyans have to be keen on. The political class, whether for or against or in between the BBI process, have their eyes very much clear on 2022. Now, as Kenyans, we must look at the document through three lenses. One, we have the policy administrative aspects. There won't be the drafting of these policies. There must be some level of consultations to get policies in place. Secondly, there are the statutory reforms. I mean, you cannot stop the normal way of developing, bills and going through public participation and going through the respective parliamentary committees. And Honorable Amisi sits on various parliamentary committees that will actually call for these issues. And then we have the constitutional amendment, Bill 2020, which, of course, has to go through civic education.
Yes.
And one of the things that we clear as civil society, as much as we work with political parties as CIV,
yes,
it is the way to get Kenyans to be engaged in this process is not to have a one-all question approach, either blanketly or not. I think we must have multiple questions so that we can be able to allow proper understanding of these issues, debate them as Kenyans and have Kenyans go to a referendum that they pick out the issues that they think are important. And this is the way to go because it is important to hold this country. The politicians have their eyes on 2022 as we must have an eye post-2022 elections. What happens the day after the 2022 general elections?
Yeah.
Will this be holding together or will the politicians have torn it apart and each for himself or herself and go for us all? We do not want that situation. And this grandstanding, you cannot, and I agree with one sentiment, that you cannot seek to amend the Constitution and the report that is driving us to that process, the proposals that are leading us to that process, you determine that they are cast in stone simply because some people are not convinced to contribute to the discussion, at various levels. We have to be honest with ourselves, as much as dishonesty has become more fashionable and has permeated the whole society.
Yes. Now, speaking of civic education, are you happy with the length that the proponents have gone to ensure that the people have access to this document and they do understand, even as the signatures will be gathered, what this is about?
It's civic education has never been the role of the political elite, the political players and politicians per se. Because whatever a politician communicates is contextualized to their selfish gains and interests.
Indeed.
And therefore, we must agree that we need our civil society to step in and be able to engage the public on this document. And that is why we are asking for a multiple question referendum, not a one-fits-all, a yes or no scenario. And we can't really say that Kenyans have had an opportunity to engage, and the referendum is not going to happen tomorrow. There's a process leading to it. It's important that Kenyans don't sit back and demand to have responses clearly from the political class, also take a personal initiative to read through. Civic education has to be conducted. I think that has also to be facilitated by government to some extent if these reforms really are well-meaning and are not just meant to do the arithmetics for 2022.
Okay. Now, Honorable Hamisi, I'd like you're saying something?
Yes.
Yes, you are trying to say something, I believe.
Yeah. I just wanted my good friend to also be honest, and I don't know why they keep on running away from this fundamental question, that these people who want to include something or amend this proposal, as he's suggesting, number one, why did they not present their views before the BBI committee when they were going around the country? Secondly, why don't they feel it's paramount to start their own initiative? If they so believe that whatever they want to be included in the BBI is so fundamental to the social and the economic, political well-being of this country, why don't they start their own initiative? The Constitution allows that, and a Kenyan can start. A Kenyan, an organization, a political party, a church organization can start an initiative to amend a constitution, even on one sentence, one item, one clause. This is an initiative that was started by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta as institutions in this country. Now, if you are to oppose them, there is nothing that we call a non-contested referendum. It is not provided for in the Constitution. Even if all the political class come together and agree that this document is the best in the world, it will go to referendum. The Kenyans have the ultimate. The Kenyans have the ultimate power to decide whether the document will be enshrined in the Constitution or the Constitution will be amended as proposed in the document. It will not be passed just because all the leaders have agreed. It will still go to Kenyans. Kenyans, the Constitution gives ultimate power to the people of Kenya. So there is nothing like non-contested. You are struggling for nothing. Whether we agree, all of us, or not, the document is subjected to people of Kenya through a referendum, and then the Constitution is amended. And if somebody will believe that there are other fundamental issues that were supposed to have been included in this document, they can start an Ekuru or court-like initiative. He did Kuguza Mzigo. And the Constitution gives you power. Instead of this gerrymandering and causing confusion to the whole nation, trying to muddy the document and say how bad it is, and you do not even know, you've not read it, you do not know the content fully.
All right. Now, I'd like to bring to you your attention another concern that has been raised by those who are opposing or those who feel that it is not accommodating their concerns. The fact that they say that it's being rushed, that we have 2 years, we are two years away from the general election, and therefore we still have time to relook into this document and fix it. What is your take on that as far as time is concerned?
I do not believe the document is being rushed. Why? Because remember the BBI process, the talks, the handshake began way back in 2018, 2017 thereabouts. So the process has been delayed because of various agitation for more people to include their views. Secondly, the process was temporarily stopped by the pandemic, the corona contagion that has ravaged the country and the world. So all that time that we are supposed to have finished this process, it was temporarily stopped by these unfortunate events. And therefore, trying to rush, it is not an excuse. It has been there. Everybody knows where the BBI stopped for a while. Otherwise, by now, we will be talking about maybe a referendum already done. We would be past referendum. We will be talking of a new constitution dispensation altogether. So these people live in Kenya. They know what has been happening. I say, if you want to have an excuse in BBI process, you will get it. Even if you put his wife in the document, they'll still oppose it. They'll find a reason to oppose it. So
Okay.
the best is for them to start their own initiative and to subject Kenyans and see if Kenyans will accept what they want. Because what you want to suggest it is not necessarily acceptable to all Kenyans. Kenyans must also vet. They must also have a say.
Okay. Mr. Mukwanja, Honorable Raila Odinga has said in that story that we just had at the beginning of the discussion that the timing is never right. There's always something. Right now it's coronavirus. There might be a locust invasion. There's always something. So when those who are opposed to this moving forward, the referendum push, talk about time and the fact that it's this situation is being rushed as opposed to them halting and listening to their views, where do you stand on this and how should things be in your view?
Thank you. First, let me set the record straight. I am here not to back any position for or against.
Yes.
As said for multi-party democracy, what concerns us is a conducive political environment for Kenyans to dialogue on governance reforms. And
Indeed.
we have been involving and engaging with political parties in this process. So I will not accept my good friend Amisi to position me when I haven't assumed any position. I have simply alerted him to the three levels of this document: the policy admin aspects, the statutory reforms, and the constitutional amendment bill, which he knows very well that there will be opportunities when he, as a member of parliament, will engage. So I was pointing to the level of dishonesty of saying that we have locked the door and no one will actually knock on it, or whenever they knock will not open. It's not, it's remotely impossible. On the issue of timing, I don't think that is a contested area because a referendum process has timelines provided by the Constitution.
Right.
A constitutional bill has timelines, provided by, the standing orders and the Constitution as well. So you cannot say that you're rushing through because there are timelines that you have to abide by. Secondly, we have three types of Kenyans: those that believe we are in a constitutional moment, like the president and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. There are those ones that are insisting we tekeleza katiba, and there are those ones that want to be convinced, some of whom Honorable Amisi thinks that they will still oppose it, even if you include their spouse and children. Having said that, you see, there is not a thing that the Constitution can only be amended at a particular time. I think it's a living document, and if you have the necessary arguments, and the people agree with you on the areas that you want to amend that requires their input, and then so be it. And to that extent, engage the Kenyans that you want to have them, carry them along. You don't want them, and we know very well that yes, this country's literacy level is quite high, but when it comes to political literacy, I think somehow we supplant our intelligence with ethnic interests. And we don't want the political class to generally mobilize the Kenyans along ethnic lines in the regard of a very important question of amending the Constitution, really determining their future, redetermining their future. And this is why we need to engage continuously on the content. The process is the easiest thing because it is already provided for in the Constitution. Whether we need to amend or whether we are right to amend, I think there is not any prescribed time on when it should be. The Constitution is 10 years. We went to the referendum in 2010 with some ideas that it is 80% good, 20% not good. What kind of scale we used, I have no idea. That 20% that was not good, the people that said it, have not come back to us to say what that is.
Yes.
We have missed steps along the way in terms of, we say in project management that whatever gets measured gets done. And I think what we have not done in this the last 10 years is that we have not really going with what the Constitution provides in terms of measuring the progress of implementation.
Oh, okay, and I'll allow you to go deeper into that. We have to take a short break. Let's take that break. When we come back, we shall have more sentiments from Honorable Hamisi and Mr. Franklin Mukwanja.